family's never really bounced back from everything that's happened. A lot of us don't speak.
Kiera's parents are divorced, and the family divide is playing out on dueling Facebook pages. One run by Kiera's father, Trevor, and his sister, Tanya. This one set up by Kiera's mother, Michelle, and her sister, Caitlin. There are very public accusations and arguments over how donated money is being spent and who gets Kiera's ashes.
It's so heartbreaking. The Friesen family's nothing if not strategic. And they could see that fracture because they have been watching both of our pages, right?
In the midst of that rift and the protests, more than 2 years after Kiera's murder, Ryan Friesen held a private meeting at this hotel in Dawson Creek. Sitting around this table, Ryan, his father Grant, and just one side of Kiera's feuding family, her mother Michelle and Aunt Caitlin. A neutral member of the family was also invited, Kiera's stepfather, Ricky.
It was very, very tense in the beginning. I'm sitting across from the man who was accused of killing my daughter. I had to put aside my hatred because he was found not guilty in Mexico, and so I wanted to hear what they had to say.
Ricky is the only person who was in that room who agreed to meet me. He says the motive was clear: stop the protests.
Everybody was harassing him, and he wanted to basically sway us in his direction that he was innocent and he wants his life back.
For the first time since Kiera was murdered, Ryan Friesen told some of her family members what he claimed happened at the resort on March 3rd, 2023. His story so convincing, some left the room now believing in his innocence.
It's Lloyd's Mennonite Furniture's March Madness sale. Floor models are so drastically reduced, it's like...
According to Kiera's stepdad, Ricky, Ryan claims after hours of drinking at the resort sports bar, he and Kiera walked back to their room at about midnight.
Ryan admitted to having an argument when they got to the hotel room. And he said that she wanted to do pictures, and they argued about that, so he went to bed. Then he woke up a couple of hours later and said that Kiera was missing. Then he said that he left the hotel room and he heard her screaming.
Kiera's stepdad says Ryan claimed to have followed the sounds of her screams to a laundry room.
He beat on the door was locked. He said that somebody opened the door. And he said that she was sitting there on the floor and holding her private, saying that she was raped. And he said that there was 3 to 4 people in the room.
But wait, so he claims that she was alive in that laundry room?
He said he heard her screaming and said that she was alive when he found her.
But Ricky says no matter how many times he asked, Ryan couldn't answer one vital question. What happened next?
He couldn't explain to me how he got from the door to laying on the floor next to her. And he wouldn't answer me that question. I asked 3 times. I'm sorry, if my girlfriend if that's happening and somebody's in there and she's claiming that they're raped, I'm not gonna just lay down on the floor next to her and go to sleep. I'm gonna fight for her and my life.
There was a special guest at that meeting as well. Ryan's lawyer was flown in from Mexico. Even asking Ricky about it sets him on edge.
I don't want to say about that. Because I just...
Why?
Well, they asked me not to say anything about him being there.
Why?
Because they didn't want him to be harmed. They're trying to instill, I don't know whether it's a little bit of fear to not bring it up.
And what is the story that's being told by Ryan and his team about who's responsible potentially for this crime?
They're trying to say that it was cartel, that the actual resort owed the cartel money and wouldn't pay them, and they made an example by finding somebody and doing this to them.
He says the Mexican lawyer told them that DNA evidence proves Ryan Friesen did not commit the crime.
It wasn't Ryan's DNA under Kiera's fingernails. That did it for Caitlin.
Did you see the DNA evidence that they told you about?
Everything is in Mexican. All I had to go off of is what people were telling me.
It was enough for Kiera's Aunt Caitlin and her mother Michelle. Caitlin did a very public about face on Ryan Friesen's guilt. First, this lengthy Facebook post. And then she went on local television thanking and apologizing to Ryan.
Thank you for allowing us to speak, to heal, and I want to say that I am sorry on behalf of the other members of my family that are continuing this hate campaign because it's so misguided and it's going in the wrong direction.
When I left that meeting, I didn't want to say he was guilty or innocent until I had a chance to read the Bible, is what they call the court document, is the Bible. And Michelle has since gotten the Bible, but she doesn't want to give it to me until I promise that it won't go to Trevor, because again, the fight between the families.
Neither Kiera's mother Michelle nor Caitlin agreed to participate in our investigation. They also refused to share the so-called Bible with us.
Not having that evidence from the trial is a roadblock in our investigation, but it's not a dead end. We do have other leads to follow. The prosecutor's text messages offer insight into the judge's reasons for the verdict. The injuries he has on his fists and body do not correspond to the injuries on Kiera. That he considered the death was carried out by 2 or more people because she was badly beaten. And then he makes mention of the presence of the genetic profiles of several people, including Ryan's. Now, that's a pretty vague statement that we can't dig into because we don't have the full DNA report. But we do have photographs from when Ryan was arrested, and we also have photos from Kiera's autopsy.
Whoever committed this horrible act on this poor 23-year-old woman had a lot of rage.
Dave Perry, chairman of Investigative Solutions Network, is a former Toronto homicide investigator, an expert on violent crime and murder. He isn't able to review all the evidence because no one with the case file will share it with us, but he has analyzed photos of Kiera and Ryan's injuries.
All of her injuries are, I was supportive of somebody that was beaten horribly, and his injuries would match that kind of an attack. I noticed on all of his fingernails, they were just soaked up in the ridges here. Hands appear to be swollen in both pictures. Those are not consistent with defense wounds, but are consistent with somebody using their hands and fists and striking and making blows.
The elbows and bruised shins, the bloody feet.
These are the kind of bruises I would expect to see, quite frankly, if you're kicking somebody.
Our picks are in. We're out watching the game. When we decide, biggest winner chooses where we go next. Turns out, betting with...
The kind of bruises I would expect to see, quite frankly, if you're kicking somebody.
Kiera's autopsy is devastating to read. Almost every inch of her body was brutalized. Chipped teeth, black eyes, ears, neck. Almost every vital organ damaged. A beating so violent that Kiera's brainstem was detached from her spinal cord.
The judge made his assumption that there's no way that one person commit that level of violence. The level of violence by an angry partner is probably some of the worst violence I've ever seen. And this doesn't surprise me in terms of the level of violence. It's actually in keeping with a lot of domestic homicides that I've seen over the years.
But it is possible that the evidence we don't have access to tells a different story. Could narcos have been involved in Kiera's killing? Headlines show tourists are not immune from cartel violence. And Canada has a travel advisory about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And so we head to Mexico to meet with the Sinaloa cartel to put Ryan Friesen's claims to the test.
When Kiera took her first steps on Mexican soil and was making her way through this airport, she'd never been out of the country before, never left Canada. And her diary paints a picture of a young woman desperate for travel to see the world.
The Princess Hotel in Playa del Carmen was meant to be a celebration for Kiera Agnew and her boyfriend, Ryan Friesen. Her first trip, her 24th birthday. This is where Kiera's body was found. Using police witness statements, we get the name of the paramedic dispatched to the resort. 3 years later, Victor Gomez is still traumatized by what he saw.
Honestamente estaba irreconocible. Todo el rostro estaba.
He says she was unrecognizable. Her face was covered with blood.
Ella ya no tenía vida. Era imposible hacer algo por ella.
There's no way he could have saved her, he says. She was dead when he got there.
I've seen the autopsy photos. I know what you saw. I want to show you what she looks like alive.
Era muy bonita. Se veía muy feliz. Justo
She was beautiful and looked so happy, he says. That's not how I remember her.
feliz a la persona que había encontrado.
At the Princess Resort, I've booked into the room Kiera and Ryan stayed in back in 2023. There have been renovations since, but Kiera's last video was made from this balcony.
We just got situated in our room. And we're gonna go get some food and then head to the beach.
Less than 12 hours after checking in, she would be found dead in this laundry room with Ryan Friesen asleep beside her.
A map is the easiest way to get a sense of the layout of this resort. Kiera and Ryan's room was in building number 7. All the way down here in building number 2 is where Kiera's body was found in the laundry room.
The night Kiera was killed started here. Surveillance cameras from inside the bar show them leaving at midnight. Everything that happened next is what Kiera's stepdad says Ryan told him at that meeting in Dawson Creek. Ryan and Kiera went back to their room, had an argument. He fell asleep, and when he woke up at about 2:30 in the morning, Kiera was gone, that he followed the sounds of her screams.
I want to count how many steps there are between Kiera's hotel room and where she was found. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
At the same time of night, 3 years later, we're retracing the route.
These are all hotel rooms. How did nobody hear this?
A 6-minute walk down 2 flights of stairs.
412, 413, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 424 steps between the hotel room and the laundry room where Kiera was found. If Kiera was running to try to get away from someone, she almost made it. The bar is right over there. It's open 24 hours a day.
It's time to say yes to more. More downtime, more playtime, more time away, more open roads, and more comfort. Want more? Just say CAA. Get CAA.ca.
At this church in Playa del Carmen, the man who made the gruesome discovery tells me exactly what he saw. He was the cleaner at the resort. He no longer works there and doesn't want to appear on camera. On March 3rd, 2023, at 2:55 in the morning, he was dispatched to clean up a mess in the hallway. It was blood.
Había mucha sangre. Es decir, había mucha sangre.
The cleaner drew this diagram and said there was blood over here, which is this wall. He said it looked as though this is maybe where Kiara's head had been slammed into the wall. There was blood also over here, and that this area was filled with blood, and it looked as though there was a struggle here. And Kiara's shoe was right here by the partially open door.
Remember how Kiara's stepdad Ricky said Ryan beat on the door? Well, the cleaner says the door had no lock. He says he found Ryan and Kiara laying side by side, his feet at her head, and that Kiara was fully clothed.
Sí, ella sí estaba vestida.
He says Kiara was lifeless and that they had to shake Ryan to wake him up.
Se subió en la escalera y todo también. Pues,
Barefoot, the cleaner says Ryan was clearly drunk and tried to run up the stairs, but was captured and held until police arrived.
como gritando, llorando. Pero
He says Ryan was screaming and crying and that he heard police say he's still drunk but starting to remember what he did.
o sea, es lo que decían los policías.
The cleaner testified at Ryan Friesen's trial. We also tracked down another witness who testified.
He's coming to the Palapa.
Okay.
The security guard on duty that night. He tells me there isn't one security camera in any of the hallways. He's also surprised Ryan Friesen was found not guilty because he says he was the only person there. We've obtained these police documents, which include a handwritten statement from the first police officer on the scene, describing Ryan as having bloodstains on his clothing, hands, and feet. This medical certificate notes Ryan tested positive for alcohol, but negative for drugs. And this is a diagram of cuts on the right hand and foot, swelling of the left hand, and a bite mark on the right hand. Playa del Carmen sits in cartel territory. Violence here follows rules. The powerful Sinaloa cartel has a firm grip on the Mayan Riviera.
The cartel have the control of everything.
Alberto has been a member of the Sinaloa cartel for decades. He knows the narco rulebook inside and out.
If the cartel wants to send a message to a big resort, does the cartel ever target tourists?
En este caso, en un hotel no se ataca turistas.
He says in a case like this, tourists are not attacked, that the only time foreigners are harmed is if they're caught in the crossfire or if they're doing business with the cartel. I tell him about Ryan Friesen's claims.
He says it was the cartel that came in and killed this young woman in the resort as punishment for the hotel because they didn't pay the cartel tax.
No, that's a lie. That's a lie. The cartel don't get in the hotels. And I know that story. But no, that's a lie.
That's a lie.
The cartel had nothing to do with that.
He knows the story because he was in jail at the same time Ryan was in detention. All the inmates were talking about the Canadian accused of killing his girlfriend at a resort.
When one cartel carries out an execution or sends a message, do all the cartels know?
Todos saben que está haciendo el otro.
He says every cartel knows when the other is sending a message. It's very public, not hidden in a laundry room on a resort in the middle of the night.
Is he in danger if he comes back to Mexico making this claim?
Que sí puede haber.
Yes, he says there could be direct repercussions against him.
You are gonna make me cry.
Kiara Agnew in life was unrecognizable in death. The photos of what was done to her are too horrifying to share. Dr. Salvador Miguel Martinez says he was consulted by one of Ryan Friesen's lawyers for his medical opinion on Kiara's autopsy.
This is the autopsy, right?
He says it was thorough and well prepared.
Is it possible, with the injuries that she had, that she would be alive after that beating to scream and say, I've been raped?
Pues es materialmente imposible.
Impossible.
Imposible.
Is there any evidence that she was raped?
Jamás hablan de que hayan encontrado evidencias de agresión sexual en ella.
They don't state finding evidence of sexual assault.
What if we told you that the hottest casino in town was actually your phone?
Of sexual assault. We asked him about this blood spatter report.
Aquí directamente está diciendo.
Here it directly states, he says, there was projection blood. Ryan was standing when Kiera's blood splashed onto him. And then he asks a surprising question.
Él sigue detenido, ¿no? ¿Real? No.
He's asking if he's still in jail.
He had no idea of the verdict until this very moment.
Ryan was found not guilty.
Ryan fue encontrado inocente.
Does that surprise you?
Te sorprende.
Sí, sí me sorprende porque... Bueno, me sorprende.
He appears shaken as he says he's surprised by the verdict. Julio Cesar Solares is a journalist in the Mayan Riviera who covers crime and corruption. He says there are red flags about this case.
Me llamó la atención de ese caso en particular porque fue muy corto.
Solares says it's unusual for a case to go from murder to verdict in just 18 months. Usually, he says, the process is much longer, between 5 to 8 years. He points to the case of an American woman, Sativa Transu, who was beaten to death in a Cancun hotel a year and a half before Kiera's murder. Her boyfriend, charged with femicide in 2021, still has not had a trial. Femicide is one of the most serious crimes in Mexico.
The crime is basically the killing of a woman because of her gender.
Silvana Sanchez is a criminal lawyer recently hired by Kiera's father, Trevor. Canada's justice system is based on the principle of innocent until proven guilty. It's something that Mexico has only adopted relatively recently.
Up until 2008, anyone who was accused of a crime was considered
Was
guilty.
considered guilty, yes.
And how does that impact the way police and forensics and investigations are done in murder cases?
Unfortunately, as any other legal system, Mexico's system has their flaws. And one of them I consider is that we are still like in baby steps in an investigation and preserving the evidence. So it's necessary for a lawyer to help or to assist and provide or take care of all the essential elements in a case in order for that to be successful.
Kiera's family did not have legal representation at Ryan Friesen's trial. Since Friesen was found not guilty, he can't be tried again for the murder of Kiera Agnew. But in Mexico, there's a process where a judge's verdict can be appealed.
How unusual would it be to overturn a not guilty verdict?
It will be really, really rare.
Really rare.
Yeah, also considering the time frames that already passed.
It's discouraging news for some of Kiera's family. But then...
So Tanya, I have never seen anything like this in my career.
Well, that is an opening statement.
Every week, senior officials from the state police, the military, and the prosecutor's office take questions from the media here. I told them in advance that I'd be coming with questions about the killing of Kiera.
Continuamos con Avery Ains.
This is 23-year-old Kiera Agnew. And Canadians would like to know today, What is being done to bring justice to Kiera Agnew?
Sí, en el marzo del 2023
What do you want me to say, Pax?
Tenemos la seguridad.
A trial judge found him not guilty, but the deputy
Paxton
prosecutor for the state
Woodside.
is saying that she believes it was established beyond any reasonable doubt that the crime was committed by Ryan.
Durante el juicio,
During the trial, she says, we were able to establish that Ryan violently beat Kiera to death.
a través de testimoniales,
Through witness testimony, expert reports, and scientific evidence, we established he was responsible. And then the state prosecutor drops a bombshell.
la autoridad jurisdiccional de segundo
An independent magistrate is right now reviewing the not guilty verdict.
una resolución favorable.
She says she's confident the verdict will be overturned, that Ryan Friesen will be declared guilty and brought
Marcia,
back
how
to
you doing?
Mexico to be sentenced for what she calls this deeply deplorable act against Kiera.
Thank you.
En este hecho tan deplorable, ¿no? Hacia la víctima Kiera M.
You subbed already, eh, Marcia Parr? I remember you. Unless it's somebody else.
Watch what happens when you pair blueberries with this.
The name looks
Most
familiar.
people think blueberries help your brain because of antioxidant.
This is what I like, yo.
After the news conference, Mexican reporters pepper me with questions
my
about what
stream
Canada
died
is doing with the case.
When I went to go look at the apartment. Like, YouTube cut me off.
The authority, the Canadian
This is a crime
And I
that
totally
occurred in
forgot to like
Mexico,
turn it
and
back
was
on and
Mexico's
stuff.
responsibility to bring
I was
justice.
like, oh, I didn't show you guys the
I'm
apartment.
called into the
I'm
private
sorry.
office of State
Paxton
Deputy Prosecutor
Woodside.
Oroshi Lugo Arana.
Entonces esperemos que,
I want to become
que
a better
este fallo
streamer.
She
You're
wants
right.
Kiera's family to know that she believes there will be news on the
But I
verdict
like this
early in
stuff.
2026.
If the magistrate comes back and says guilty,
And I need
what is
friends.
the process
So,
next for having
it is
Ryan
what it is.
returned to Mexico? And what is the punishment that he will face if it is a guilty verdict?
ser un delito de feminicidio.
Because this is a charge of femicide, she says, Ryan Friesen would face up to 50 years behind bars. And if the verdict is overturned, there would be international cooperation to return Ryan to Mexico.
Para poder presentar ante la justicia mexicana pues, al procesado Ryan.
It's a head-spinning turn of events. I video call Kiera's Aunt Tanya, the driving force behind the protests across Canada.
The prosecutor said Ryan Friesen is guilty of murder, that he beat her to death at the resort.
You said that on camera or to you?
On camera.
Oh my God.
She has every confidence that the magistrate is going to make a decision to revoke the not guilty verdict and that Ryan Friesen will be brought back to Mexico to serve up to 50 years in jail.
Oh my God. That acknowledgement means everything. Even, I pray the magistrates agree. But that acknowledgement goes so far. So overwhelming.
From the 30-degree heat in Mexico to minus 30 in northern British Columbia, we make our way back to Dawson Creek. From the beginning, we've given Ryan Friesen every opportunity to tell his side of the story. He initially appeared open to an interview. In a text, he told me, I have to speak with my family and some others before I can make a decision to speak to you, if that's okay. But in the ensuing months, he didn't respond to texts asking him to share the evidence that led to his not guilty verdict. He didn't reply to a request for the name of his lawyer in Mexico, our attempt to have someone speaking on his behalf. We also called Ryan's father, Grant.
I just wanted to briefly talk to you in the hopes that I could get the name of your lawyer in Mexico.
You know what? I'm sorry, but you're just going down the wrong path.
I'm trying to find a way to tell.
It's really sad.
I'm trying to find a way to hear from your son's perspective.
And so we're back in Dawson Creek, trying to speak to Ryan. He's driving this gray pickup. He pulls over to clean off his windshield.
Hey, Ryan.
Please leave me alone.
No, we got to talk about it.
Please leave me alone.
Ryan, we got to talk about it. Ryan.
That approach with Ryan was weeks ago, and for months we have been trying to get somebody to speak on his behalf. And then just 6 days before broadcast, through his Canadian lawyer, he emailed us this statement.
In it, he says he feels grief and deep sadness for all of us that lost Kiera, thanking Kiera's mother and Aunt Caitlin, who followed the case closely and believe in my innocence. He claims statements to investigators referencing unidentified suspicious men near the area were not meaningfully pursued, and that basic investigation steps, such as properly canvassing nearby resort rooms, were not done.
He writes that his desire for justice is unwavering, that he hopes those who are truly responsible are held fully accountable.
His lawyer also shared this DNA report, which we had analyzed by forensic biologists at Wyndham Forensic Group in Ontario. Based on this one DNA report, they confirm Ryan Friesen's DNA was not found under Kiera's fingernails, and that one unknown male profile was found. But they say the presence or absence of DNA under fingernails doesn't prove innocence or guilt, and that it's not unusual to have foreign DNA under your fingernails. It's important to note, if Kiera Agnew was unable to put up a fight, she wouldn't have her attacker's DNA under her nails.
We often see what we describe as an overkill. You know, the person could have been dead after the first blow, but you find 50 blows.
Former Toronto homicide investigator Dave Perry says, while he doesn't have all the evidence in the case, he understands why the not guilty verdict is being appealed.
That's what shocks me, that a judge would actually look at all this evidence and accept the fact that this was perhaps cartel related, that two people had to have been there to perpetrate the crime because of the level of violence. Absolutely not.
Drowning in over $6,000 of debt and living in Canada, ready to slash that burden and reclaim your life? Stick.
Absolutely not.
We want the truth. That's it. And we're not going to quit until we get it.
The protests that began when a judge said not guilty are smaller now.
This is my daughter. She was murdered in Mexico. She was murdered? Yes. Okay, thank you guys so much. My daughter was murdered in Mexico. Do you want one to just take with you?
I'm so sorry.
Oh, thank you.
This is so hard.
Oh, no, it's
but
horrible.
But justice is going to give you peace.
I'm hoping if we can get it.
We just want answers. Whether he's innocent or he's guilty, I just want to know what happened that night. I just want justice for Kiera.
Oh, shit. It's good. Of femicide. They're guilty of femicide. His lawyers are appealing the decision. Oh, it's crazy. That's crazy.
We have just had a shooting on Highway 4. Female is deceased on the east side of the road. Break for dispatch. We have another shooting on Plains Road in DeBert.
Do we know if the suspect's vehicle is still at the scene there? Has anyone heard that? Enfield, big stop. Enfield, big stop. Yes, you're coming. Back up. Back up. 5 and Hotel 5, shots away. Suspect is down.
April 2020. Across Nova Scotia, a desperate manhunt for a mass murderer. A lone gunman driving a replica police cruiser. During a 13-hour rampage, he's killed neighbors, acquaintances, even complete strangers. Until, cornered by police, he dies in a hail of bullets. The final act in Canada's worst mass shooting. 22 victims, lives cut short in acts of madness. Their passing marked by makeshift memorials with questions about who would do such a thing. The killer's name, Gabriel Wortman. The person who knew him best was Lisa Banfield.
Come here now. Good girl.
His common-law spouse of 19 years, herself a victim of intimate partner violence, as Wortman assaulted her, tortured her, and left her living with the aftermath of unthinkable crimes.
That's me, and this crowd surf all started with a hockey bet with Proline Plus. Our picks are in.
Of unthinkable crimes.
Just want you to know if I ask you something and it's need a break, we'll take it, okay? Okay, thank you. Why did you want to do this interview?
I want people to know that you can't judge anybody. Because when you're in that situation, you're being manipulated. When you're in it and you're just surviving.
Hello, my name is Gabriel Wortman.
Surviving Gabriel Wortman. To most who knew him, Wortman was the denturist with a practice in Dartmouth that was all smiles. But behind that grin was a violent temper he took out on friends, associates, patients, and most of all, Lisa Banfield, his co-worker and spouse.
Throughout my whole life with Gabriel, nothing was ever normal. What he did was to the extreme of anything.
And for Lisa, that became her new reality, regardless of the personal cost.
I lived with that. It was normal to me.
And really, in your case, you had to adapt, or else it was survival.
The thing is, I loved him. And how do you love somebody that beats you? And I thought, if I can just love him enough and show him what love is, then maybe that would help him and he would, become normal. But I was a fool to think that I could, but I wanted to be that person for him.
This is where their ill-fated love story began. Lisa's first marriage had ended, and she was looking to find somebody new to spend her life with.
Tell me about how you met Gabriel.
I could see this guy at the bar, and he's waving, and I just smiled, kind of thing, right? So when it was coming to the end of the night, and we were getting ready to leave, and then Gabriel came up to me, and he goes, well, can I get your phone number? And the only person I ever gave my phone number to was my ex-husband. He was tall, handsome, turtleneck, black leather jacket, black dress pants. So we looked put together, and he had a nice, kind-looking smile. And I'm like, okay. So I gave him my phone number, and I just got home, and within half hour or so, he called me, and we talked till like 3 a.m. I thought it was.
You talked for that long?
Yeah. So he asked me to go out on a date the next day, and he showed up in his BMW convertible. We were at an intersection, and this girl from behind in the van rear-ended us. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, this is a good test to see, okay, is he going to freak out or
moment of truth.
Yeah.
For character.
Yeah. And he went up to them, and he's like, it's okay. And he was just so gentle and kind with them. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like, it was impressive to me.
The moment of the accident showed you what about him that he had, what compassion?
Yeah.
Compassion that day. But what she didn't know early in the relationship was that he also had a dark side, a violent temper, He'd been convicted of assault and, as an inquiry would later find, was violent when he drank alcohol.
So the courtship begins. Everything's going well. How soon after did you move in together?
Within 6 months. It just seemed like we had so much in common, and we were both hard workers. And the fact that he was giving me all this attention where I never got from my husband, and I craved that. So it was like, oh my gosh, like I love this. But it started off as trying to separate me from my family.
Wortman began cutting her off from those closest to her, sisters Maureen and Janice, and her freedom.
He wanted me to get rid of the Jeep. And I'm just like, I want my own vehicle. Like, if I want to go somewhere, I want my own vehicle.
Because that's freedom, that's independence.
Right? So I got rid of the vehicle, and then it's like, okay, where's my vehicle? He goes, well, you could just use my vehicle. But then it came to the point that I had to ask, like, to go anywhere. And it's just like, I didn't like that. And then if I wanted to go visit family, he's like, we'll do it all in one day so you don't have to spread it out. And again, that was a control thing so that he would have me there. And
But to the point that he was tracking your mileage, and that's how he was justifying it, right?
It started off like that. And then it started off with compliment me all the time. And then as soon as he gave me a compliment, he would do the flip side of tearing me down as like I'm dirt underneath his feet. You know, you feel so good, and then he can just say something to knock you down, and he had that control to do that. I didn't like that. But yet I felt like as time went, I couldn't control it.
Peter Jaffe is a psychologist and world-renowned expert on domestic violence from London, Ontario's Western University. He conducted an assessment on Lisa Banfield and her relationship with Wortman, concluding his behavior fit the pattern of an abuser who had picked his target.
Abusers look for individuals who are vulnerable, individuals who have difficult childhood histories, individuals who lack self-esteem, lack confidence. That allows them to maintain control in that relationship through a variety of means, physical, sexual, emotional, putting them down over and over again. You know, Lisa's relationship, she was told over and over again that she was stupid, that she was worthless, she didn't have a good education. And she believed it. She took it in. It changed who she was. She didn't have an opinion. I mean, she was told that, you know, if she wanted to have an opinion, he'd give her one.
Trading is not for everyone, but if you are a trader, Plus 500 is the place.
She was told that, you know, if she wanted to have an opinion, he'd give her one.
Take me back to the first assault.
The street was having a party. I said, okay, you're driving, and I'm not staying the night. I'm coming home. Just putting that out right now. And he's like, yeah, no problem. So I'm talking to people. And I happened to look over, and I could see that Gabriel's drinking. So I ended up going over to him, and I'm saying, you know what? You've been drinking. You were supposed to drive. If you want to stay, you stay, but I'm leaving. And I got in the Jeep. And then all of a sudden, I get this whack in the face, and I'm just like, I'm stunned, because I'm thinking, like, I've never got hit before. And then he hit me again, and I jumped out, and I started running across the road into the woods. And he grabbed me by my hair, and he's hitting me like this. And I'm just trying to protect myself so he's not hitting me, not knowing where he's going to hit me next. And he got me out to the road, and he's hitting me and hitting me. And at this point, I just started screaming.
Police were called, but fearing the consequences, she didn't speak with them.
So I got back to the party, and they're still all around, and they're looking at me like, what happened? And I could see this police car going by, and Gabriel was in the back, and they said, do you want to talk to the police? And I said, no. I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
What did you think that would do if you were to speak to police in that moment?
This is how sick I felt at the time, is I don't want to get him in trouble. I know what he did was wrong, and there's no excuse for it. But I didn't want other people looking at him like that, like a monster.
But he was a monster. A Jekyll and Hyde who could be charming and then vicious. And Wortman seemed to be above the law. As a public inquiry would later conclude, police failed to properly investigate complaints about him.
What do you think when you look back and you think of all these people who were witness to the abuse, the horror, and did nothing?
I'm angered by it. But some people, I understood, and because they were scared of him too.
Did anyone call police ever?
Not one time throughout my whole 19, almost 20 years with Gabriel did a police officer come to me once and ask me anything. Never. That's sad.
So the people who were supposed to protect you did what instead?
Ignored it.
And abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa moved in with her sister Maureen for a short time, but was soon back with Wertman.
Your life's at stake.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you go back?
After the first time, where he was so heartfelt in his apology, I truly felt like it was a one-off. But then being with him and it continued, I stayed because he would be like putting things out there. Like, I know where your family lives, Lisa. And he would...
He threatened your family?
Yes, multiple times. So I'm thinking, okay, if I leave, that's one thing, but he knows where every one of those people live.
Leaving is a complicated process. Leaving requires support from your family, from economic support. It requires a sense of safety, there's someplace you can go. At the end of the day, if the abuser has more power than everyone else, then you're going to stay with the devil you know, because there's really no alternative. And each disclosure you make about violence, every time you might tell somebody or somebody sees something, if nothing useful happens after that, then you realize you're cooked, you're done.
He was brilliant, but he also had the mind of a sick human being.
Sisters Maureen and Janice could only watch helplessly as Wertman cut off family contact.
That first assault, honestly, we thought would be the last. I thought, okay, it's not going to happen again. And then the pattern started.
I have a lot of guilt about not standing my ground more with him. And, you know, it was a struggle because I knew that in order for me to see my sister, you were accepting what was happening.
Did you think that he would kill her?
We did. But it didn't change anything because she wasn't going to change. She was staying with him.
Clues as to how Lisa Banfield slipped into an abusive relationship can be traced back to her childhood, where discipline was harsh and she was sexually abused.
So this is the house in Beaver
Subscribe,
Bank?
man, and stop
Oh,
laughing.
sweet home.
Oh my God. Gotta get the job done.
Mom and Dad. She's like freaking Queen Elizabeth. Isn't that and look how handsome Dad was, eh?
Home was in Beaver Bank, 45 minutes outside Halifax.
And tell me about some of the good times.
Oh my gosh. There was a baseball field farther down our road. We'd play for hours and hours down there and we'd laugh and have fun until Mom would call us for supper. And Mom would make she would bake muffins and cookies and cakes and pies and all that kind of stuff. We felt just special. I just felt loved and I felt special.
You're quite emotional.
Highest win rate guarantee only at Luxury Casino. Why would you play anywhere else? Install now.
No.
I like this stuff though, Lazy Lab Rat.
When you're younger, you don't appreciate what they've
Real
done.
life.
And then as you get older, you realize all the sacrifices they made for you.
Despite that, theirs was a troubled home. Mom and Dad were both alcoholics, and money was tight for the family of 9 kids. The youngest, including Lisa, slept 4 to a bed.
People think, who does that kind of thing? It just brought us so close.
What was your dad like?
Dad was a good man. He was strict, and he was a perfectionist, wanted everything just so. But he was loving and he was kind and he was fun. But he would get the strap. It was over things that you should get the strap over. And I could see him stand there with the strap and I'm thinking, this is in my head. And I'm a kid. I'm thinking, this is just wrong. He would say, you know I love you, right? And I'm thinking in my head, if you love me, you wouldn't hit me.
You were 9 then.
No.
You're 9 years old here.
Yeah.
The discipline was harsh, and so were her feelings of being dismissed when Lisa told her parents that she was being sexually abused by a neighbor while babysitting their child.
He was just young, so her and I would sleep together. And I remember seeing him come into the room, but I'm pretending I'm sleeping because I'm thinking, what is he doing? And then he would kneel down beside me and go up underneath the covers to touch me. And I felt like somebody's paying me attention, but it's not the way that I want attention. So in some ways, I felt like, did I bring this on myself kind of thing, and feeling dirty and ashamed. The mom didn't want to talk about it. I remember going to Dad because he had asked me, like, what happened? And I told him, and he's like, is that all? And I'm thinking, is that all? Like, I thought, like, he doesn't care what he did to me. Like, so I felt like I didn't matter, right? Like,
From growing up into adulthood, working at a bank, a brief marriage, and finding love, Lisa Banfield wrote it all down in these personal journals, including when she met Gabriel Wertman, a relationship that transitioned from hope to horror.
April 21st, 2001. He's such a very handsome man. I hope and pray that we can become the best of friends. I just feel so happy and anxious when I think about him. April 2005. Yesterday, Gabriel was awful to me. He really scared me. He grabbed me by the neck, smashed me in the head, and tore my shorts practically off me. He made me sit in a chair while he lazed in bed, calling me a stupid bitch, loser, that I am an idiot with no intelligence. November 19, 2005. He not only degraded me, but threatened to kill me. Tonight, I was really scared for my life.
A life that Wertman was determined to control.
the one time that I came home, he was irritated and he had my journal in his hand. I'm like, what are you doing with my journal? And he's like, why would you write this about me in here? And I said, those are my personal thoughts. You have no right to take it. And he took it and he threw it in the toilet. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like, I can't talk to my family. Now I have to even hide my journals because I can't even get my thoughts out. So it was just like all of this stuff spinning in my head, like, what am I going to do? I would write whatever I was feeling, and then I'd throw it in the fireplace and burn it so he'd never find it.
So really, he robbed you of your dignity, mm-hmm. He robbed you of your thoughts, mm-hmm. and he robbed you of your words.
Mm-hmm. You know, people say, like, why would you stay? Well, nobody's going to stay if it's good all the time, or if it's bad all the time. Clearly, he showed me parts of him that were vulnerable and that he was a little boy and he didn't deserve. So I would focus on those times.
Peter Jaffe, an expert in intimate partner violence, believes those vulnerabilities masked his troubled past.
He grew up with horrific abuse as a child. You know, he was a violent, dangerous individual, you know, long before he met Lisa. He had assaulted and threatened other people. He was doing dangerous things. He was collecting weapons and ammunition. The police knew that. He was going to kill his parents. You know, he was going to kill a police officer. There was enough red flags and warning signs that somebody should have said, stop, enough.
But nobody stopped him. An inquiry would later find numerous complaints about him made to police, barely investigated. A family trip to Cuba remains etched in Lisa's memory. Wertman and his father, who abused him when he was a child, were on that trip. When they got into a heated argument, Wertman exacted his revenge.
He wanted his father to admit what he did as a kid, and his father wouldn't. And that's when he started beating him. And that was the first time I ever saw him get physical with anybody other than me. And I'm thinking, I can't stay here and watch this. And then he came later on after he finished with his dad, and he comes in and he's smiling. He goes, I got him. And I'm looking at him like, you make me sick. Like, who does that? I don't care what he did to you. There's a way of getting your point across without being violent. But with Gabriel, that's all he knew. And he went to the bathroom, and then I get a knock on the door, and it's his father. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you just got beat his face, his eyes. Like it was a sin. I felt bad. And he said, Lisa, he said, you know what? I was a bastard to my son and I was a bastard to my wife. And he said, if you don't leave him, he's going to do this to you.
Give yourself 2026 to master the Bible like pastors do.
If you want to study the Bible like a pastor but don't know.
If you don't leave him, he's going to do this to you.
COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
March 2020, the World Health Organization declares a global pandemic. Countries close borders. There are lineups for toilet paper and businesses closed, including Gabriel Wortman's denture clinic in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia.
The entire world changed. And it did for you too.
He wanted to move up to the cottage. And again, none of my family were allowed to go up. He was so fanatical about this that, you know, he said if I was around my family and I brought something to him, that I would pay the price, basically, right? So.
What do you think he meant by that?
Oh, he would be physical, or he would do something to me. Because he knew how to control me that way by scaring me.
Their cottage home in Portapique overlooked Cobequid Bay, and in a building they called the warehouse, Wortman showcased his prized possessions, including a replica RCMP cruiser he'd bought from government surplus, and which he had restored. Also hidden here behind the bar was a cache of guns, and isolation fed his paranoia.
He thought the world basically was going to end, and like he's seen on movies how, you know, the apocalypse where people are busting in, you know, stores getting whatever loot they can to survive, and he's thinking they're going to come get all of our stuff.
This all-consuming sense of paranoia. Had you seen it before throughout your time together?
Yeah, I would see it sometimes, but not to this extent.
So the pandemic raised it,
that just
amplified
totally
it.
changed who he was. Like it just, everything, it just changed. Like he was a very sexual person. Didn't want sex at all.
Lost interest.
Everything. He lost interest in everything. He was just so consumed with whatever Trump was saying and whatever was going on, and thinking that the world's going to come to the end and people are going to come and try to take what we have. And it was just, in my mind, crazy talk. And then he heard his friend down in the States saying, you know, you can't get bullets, you can't get guns, like you need to protect yourself, Gabriel, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, Gabriel, it's going to be fine.
It almost sounds like he was preparing for the end of days.
Yeah. Like even like wanting all the money out of the bank, and him saying that, you know, banks are going to crash, I'm going to lose my money. And I'm like, Gabriel, the banks aren't going to crash. And so that's when he wanted all the money out of the bank.
$475,000 in cash.
What do you think when he presents that plan to you?
I'm thinking it's not normal, clearly. And I'm thinking his paranoia, like he's getting crazy at this point. I thought it was nuts.
One problem, for that large a withdrawal, he had to go right to the Brinks compound in Halifax. This security footage shows Wortman arriving in another surplus police car, this one undoctored, to make the pickup, waiting in the safe room, signing the paperwork, and leaving with a bag stuffed with $100 bills.
And then he got all this money, and then he's like, we'll bury it.
Which is exactly what they did. Combined with cash he had already hoarded, it totaled $750,000, which they buried under the cottage deck. Mid-April brought their 19th anniversary of being together, and they spent April 18th driving the back roads of central Nova Scotia and the evening in the warehouse.
So aside from him being a little bit distant the day of your anniversary, did you get any sense that he was planning something or plotting something?
No.
Not at all?
No.
But after a phone call with friends in the U.S., things turned sour.
He just started yelling, and you're being a bitch, and then calling me the C word and saying all this stuff. And I'm thinking, you know, in my head, I'm thinking, this has not been a day that I've enjoyed. It's not been about us at all. And I thought, okay, I'm going back. I said, I'm going to bed. I'm tired. And I'm laying there, and I can hear this whooshing sign. I'm thinking, the heck is he doing?
So you heard a whooshing
A whooshing sound, right? Then he opens up the door, flicks on the light, and comes over and he's like, get up. And then he's on top of me and he's grabbing me by the neck, choking me, and it's like, Gabriel, like, just stop. And he goes, and I said, just stop, it's gonna be okay. Like, cause I'm trying to take him down off the roof, right? I'm like trying to calm him down. And then he grabbed me by the hair and he's pulling me and he's like, get up. So I got up. And as soon as I got up, then he went like this and kicked me. And I went down and it was just like, it killed me, right? And I'm like, and then he's telling me to get up and it's like, I'm trying and I'm trying to put my hands on the bed. So matter-of-factly, he's just like, let's not forget about the gun. Like, just normal. And I'm thinking in my head, like, what are you talking about? And as he's pulling me, I'm thinking, maybe I could run. And he's just like, be careful, it's wet. You could slip. And I'm thinking, you just beat the shit out of me, but now you care?
And then, a point of no return, setting off a horrifying chain of events.
And he's like, turn around. And as soon as I turned around, all I saw was this whoosh of fire. So it was gasoline that he was throwing, and that was that sound.
Behind them, flames engulfed the cottage.
He goes, we're going over to the warehouse and I'm burning that. And I'm like, Gabriel, you know what? It's going to be okay. I can say that I burned it by accident. Like, I'll take the blame for it. Like, it's going to be okay. No, Lisa, it's too late. It's too late.
Too late.
Helps optimize your checkout flow so you can grow your revenue. And your team can focus on
To find any help.
In the past, I would think, I can't I can't call the police. I can't contact anybody. But that time, that as soon as he said, it's too late, I thought, I need help. I know I need help now. I can't, there's nothing I can do. I need help. And it was just like, I'm looking at him, but there was like nothing there.
Blank.
Blank. Like, I'm looking at him, but I couldn't even see his eyes because there was just, he was in his zone and there was nothing I could say to change that. And he goes, we're burning this, then we're going to Dartmouth, and then we're going to Maureen's. And as soon as he said Maureen's, I thought, kill me now, because if you're going to go through my family, I don't want to live.
Because that's your sister.
That's my sister. And I'm thinking, he's going to go through my whole family. So in my mind, I'm thinking, if you're going to kill them, I don't want to be here. But I don't want to see the bullet coming. So what I did is I just covered my eyes and I went down, like knelt down like this, but I had my eyes covered because I thought, I don't care if you kill me, but I don't want to see it coming at me. And then he shot on one side of me and he's like, get up. And I'm like, Gabriel, it doesn't have to be like this. And he shot on the other side of me. And he goes, I'm not going to tell you again. I thought, okay, the next time he's going to shoot me. So then I stood up and then he just grabbed me and threw me in the back of the police car and shut the door.
Locked in the back seat of that replica RCMP cruiser, desperate to escape.
All I was doing was kicking on the door to see if I could just break the glass. I was thinking it's glass, but it's plexiglass, so there's no way I could break it. And then he comes in, and I'm just watching. It was like robotic. Sorry.
It's okay, take your time.
So then he just passed the front of the car and just went upstairs to where there was an apartment that he built. And I'm thinking, I gotta get out of this car. And then I went to the other side, passenger side, and then I just went to the middle and went like this and they opened. I got out and I just started running through the woods and it was so thick, it was just hitting me in the face. And then I just dropped to my hands and knees and just started crawling. And I just started crawling till I found this big tree on its laying down and there was like a hollow out of it. And I thought, okay, if I can just try to line my body up like this and I'm in black, he won't see me.
Hiding in the dark, Lisa could hear the sounds of Wortman's rampage and see the glow of fires he lit through Portapic.
So I laid there. I could hear things and I'm thinking, is it fireworks? Because we had fireworks in the cottage or in the warehouse. But clearly it was gunshots. But in my mind, I'm like, no, he's not doing anything to anybody. It's probably the fireworks. And then it would stop, and then I would hear it again, and then I knew, like... But it's like, where am I going to go? And then all of a sudden I see this fire on the other side. Then all of a sudden I heard two guys like curse and saying, "Holy F," like what's happening? And I could hear the plainest day. And all I heard was, hey boys, or hey fellas, and then bang, bang, and then dead silence. And I'm thinking I was that close. Like, I just think, part of me feels like if I didn't get out of the car, would all those people be alive? I know I couldn't do anything to change it, but that sticks with me because I feel he was looking for me, and then after a while he didn't care who he was hurting. But that's what I was feeling.
You're still carrying that?
Mm-hmm. Like, I know it's not my fault, and I know there's nothing I can do, but that still sticks with me. It still sticks with me. Because he never said he wouldn't hurt anybody. He just said this, and then more ain't. So in my mind, he's like, he's going after my family. And I thought if I run, that he's not going to go after my family because he's going to find me. Yeah.
In the early hours of April 19th, 2020, a crazed gunman terrorized central Nova Scotia. And in the thick forest around Portapic, his spouse prayed he wouldn't find her.
What Lisa Banfield did not know, as she shivered in the hollow of a tree on that cold spring night here in Portapic, is that Gabriel Wertman was on an unconscionable killing spree. Among his 22 victims, a healthcare worker who was pregnant, a police officer with 2 young children, and a 17-year-old girl who had her entire life ahead of her.
His first 13 victims were neighbors, many of their homes set ablaze. And then Wertman began driving the back roads of Nova Scotia in his replica police car. Surveillance videos later obtained by police show him on his deadly route. From Portapic through Great Village, and then into Deberts, a former Air Force base, where he spent the night parked in the industrial park.
Which direction was he headed, towards Truro or towards New Brunswick?
At the time, first responders struggled to make sense of it all.
The car we're looking for is a fully marked PC. They're saying there may be multiple victims there. We're trying to get some more reports. RCP are requesting more ambulances.
He emerged at dawn to continue the killing spree, while Lisa climbed out of her hiding spot.
I was just praying to God that I would make it through the night. So then it became light, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get out of here. And I just started running. And then I saw the host, and I just started banging on it because I'm thinking, is Gabriel out there and he can see me? He let me in, and I just said, Gabriel lost it. And he's like, yeah, no kidding. This squad, like, they just came, it seemed like from nowhere, and it was like, of all people, in like military camouflage outfits and stuff with guns. And I was like trying to tell them, like, he has a police car exactly like yours, and they're looking at me like dumbfounded, like, are you sure? And I'm like, I'm telling you, like, they have lights, he has everything, it's identical to your guys.
Lisa was taken here to the hospital in Truro, kept under police guard, while Wertman drove through the city without stopping. He was headed south towards Dartmouth and Lisa's family. Along the way, he shoots a Mountie, kills another, and murders complete strangers, switching to cars stolen from his victims.
Our picks are in. We're out watching the game when we decide biggest winner chooses where we go next. Turns
to cars stolen from his victims. Then, needing gas, he pulls into the service center at Ennis, Nova Scotia. Just seconds before 2 Mounties in an unmarked car pull up on the other side of the pump.
Enfield, big stop. Enfield, big stop. Yes, you're coming. Back up. Back up. Oh, shit. Hotel 5 shots away.
Oh, man.
Suspect is down.
It is the end of Gabriel Wortman's rampage. The Mounties got their man. Now they focused on Lisa Banfield, not as a victim, but as a suspected accomplice.
There's a lot of grief in the community, in the province, in the country. And there was a considerable level of anger as well. How much of that anger did you feel was directed at you?
All of it. Because he wasn't around and I was there. And I just felt like I was being attacked and my characters being judged.
You guys watching this, man? It's crazy. I remember that.
Lisa gave the RCMP 4 interviews, the first from her hospital bed in Truro, the last back in Portapic.
And we're here to do a reenactment with Lisa Banfield in the lake.
An opportunity, she thought, to find closure.
Lisa Banfield, could you state your name for the record?
But she didn't expect the Mounties to bring a video crew.
Don't leave anything out. Just take your time and begin wherever you want.
Were you caught off guard? Were you surprised? Did you feel like it was an
ambush? That's what I felt like, you know.
I could see a house in the distance on fire. I'm thinking I came out through there. And then I remember seeing a fire over here and hearing the two guys, and then, hey boys, and then bang, bang.
There were people out there who were doubting your story, and they were saying that you didn't actually survive the night in the woods like you said you did. And so you really wanted to find that tree where you hid.
I thought if I have somebody here that can see it in real time with me, they'll believe that I was there, because this is what I saw and this is how I survived that night.
If I can just find that tree, this is it.
Did you feel vindicated in that moment?
And then the RCMP stunned everyone. Despite assurances that she was not a suspect, they used their interviews with Lisa and family to charge her and 2 relatives for buying bullets for Wortman.
Good.
When he asked you to get bullets, did you feel that you had the option at all of saying no?
Well, I just tried to reiterate, like, why do you need more? You have lots of them. And he's like, well, you know, we need to protect ourselves. I just wanted him off my back because he was just on me. And I didn't want to hear it anymore.
Not good, but...
But had I have known that that's even illegal, I would never put my family in that situation. Or myself, like...
I was going
There
through
was such a
the
betrayal.
worst experience in my life.
I felt such a betrayal
At the same
from
time this
the
happened,
police
yo.
in that I felt that they took advantage of us as a family.
You wanted bullets. She didn't see the need for that, but he wants bullets, and what Gabriel wants, he gets, or she'll pay the price.
She went from being victim number 1 to public enemy number 1.
Jessica Zita is Lisa Banfield's lawyer.
What do you think their motivation was for charging her?
I think there was a lot of pressure on them to give answers. And so Lisa maybe provided a scapegoat, but I definitely think it was a convenient distraction. These families needed it so desperately. They needed answers. And to just point them in a direction that took the heat off of the RCMP.
What does that do to a woman who's suffered abuse at the hands of a man for 19 years and now, in your words, to be made a scapegoat?
You just want to help, and you want to be a beacon to your community, and you want to do what you can to give everyone the answers that they need. To all of a sudden have that turn on you, have your words turn on you. I don't know how you come out of that.
I'm so happy.
Psychologist Peter Jaffe believes those charges mistreated a victim. An expert assessment he provided to the Mass Casualty Commission, a public inquiry into the massacre.
The Banfield had no choice or option. She had no autonomy. I mean, she was being controlled 100% by her abuser. She had no foresight that the ammunition, could be part of what ultimately happened, although there's not evidence connecting the ammunition to the ultimate tragedy. But she had no choice to say no. She could not say no to him. And I think she was re-victimized by the police.
IDs and stuff.
Re-victimized, although the charges were eventually dropped.
She's already gone through, a marriage filled with abuse. She, was attempt murder. I mean, the night she got away, and then she's being held accountable somehow for 22 deaths. So she's been re-victimized by the very process. You're blaming an abuse victim for what transpired.
That Lisa girl called me back like last year too. Like, why are you calling
Here
me?
you're blaming an abuse victim for what transpired.
I'm not saying it's the same situation, but like, yo, life is funny, yo.
Across Canada, intimate partner violence is marked
real.
annually with a candlelight vigil. In Nova Scotia, it's especially poignant. Here, a mass murderer abused his partner for 19 years and then went on a killing spree that left 22 people dead. Christina Fifield is a therapist who has worked with the common law spouse of that killer, Lisa Banfield, to try to change public attitudes, but finds it an uphill battle.
Did society fail her?
This was a failure right across society, and I think that speaks largely to what we're seeing across our province, across Canada, and globally, is that we still do not have a lot of people trained to respond to people that are perpetrating harm and violence and individuals that are experiencing violence.
6 months after the rampage, the federal and Nova Scotia governments appointed the Mass Casualty Commission, an inquiry into the tragedy, tasked to provide recommendations to prevent a similar occurrence. Psychologist Peter Jaffe.
And over the years, we've had various inquiries and inquests, and we made the same recommendations over and over and over again. So we're good with awareness, but we're pretty lousy when it comes to putting awareness into action and looking at major societal changes. The solutions are pretty straightforward. It's better training for all professionals, especially police, crown attorneys, judges, more training within the healthcare system, mental health providers, understanding more about domestic violence, or on public education.
Had those charges not have been brought forth, Lisa was willing to sit down with all the 22 victims and unborn child's families and say, you know what, you ask me whatever you want to ask me. But instead, it was them against us. And it was so difficult because I'm listening to what's being said. They're making, correlations between him and or whatever they were, because we only knew what we saw.
Yeah.
He lived a different life. And what people on social media, the negativity, and even through some of the news outlets who portrayed Lisa as evil, that she is just as evil as he was just, it was so devastating because it was so far from the truth.
There's a local reporter who used the term witchification, the witchification of Lisa Banfield. Do you feel it's an accurate term, witchification?
I
do, because
thank you for coming in.
the people that are involved, it's
Subscribe,
sad
please,
because
Beth.
they're hurting.
Bethway.
And I feel their pain.
I
A
appreciate
pain
it.
she
Thank you so
carries
much.
with her own.
Sitting here, and I would sometimes I'd bring my car down, and I'd just sit, and I would think, and I would journal. And then, as sad as it was, sometimes I would think I could just drive off in the water and be done.
You had that thought?
I had thoughts like that all the time.
Wow.
But then I thought,
It wasn't about me. I thought, what would the family do? How would that impact
So
them?
even at that time, you were thinking about them.
Well, I think Lisa
Grove City,
obviously has a
Ohio,
long road ahead of
Ohio
her. You're
124.
living with trauma.
Something happened there?
Like her recovery is slow. I mean, this is an overwhelming life event. I don't think you ever recover. You get better day by day. Part of the healing journey for her is
What
telling
happened
her
in
story,
Grove City,
getting
Ohio?
it out there. So I think that's critical. But it's going to be
Oh, shit's scary.
it's going to be a
bro. Like,
lifelong
witchy?
journey for her, overcoming her trauma and getting better month by month.
She's written a book hoping her story can help others, particularly her message to those in violent relationships: seek help.
If I could help one person, it would be worth it to me. Like, just knowing what I went through and so many people that don't have the support that I did have. I want them to know that they can do it, that they matter. And they're just have people in their lives that are broken.
Inmates who are burnt
But
alive.
they can get out.
Imagine
They can.
being burnt alive.
And there's lots of help out there. You just have to want to do it for yourself.
Does he still haunt you?
Like, I still have dreams that he's coming after me and he's trying to kill me. And sometimes I wake up and I'll look out the windows and then I'll make sure all the doors are locked and then I'll leave the lights on.
Could you ever forgive him for everything he's done to you? Have you forgiven him?
I have to, because that's only hardening me. And being angry at him, I feel, is bringing attention on him that he doesn't need. And I feel like I need to focus on me now. Like, I don't want to think about him.
Is there any part of you that still loves him?
Grove City, Ohio 124.
That's sick. But part of me, again, I just think of the good times that we had. But now, at this point, I try to not think about him.
Is there something you want to convey or that I haven't asked you that you want to mention?
I'd like to say to the families, I'm so sorry for your loss. Can't imagine what you're going through. And if there was anything that I could have done to change that, I would. I understand your pain. I just pray that you find peace.
Oh my God, 22 people died. I want to see this one, y'all. YouTube, please don't flag me for this one. I don't know these people. WTHR.
Josh wasn't always an innocent person. He was a good person that did dumb things. I've cried every day since my brother passed.
How did your brother die?
By fire. He was trapped in a cell.
I started seeing smoke. Everybody started yelling, "Hey, fire, fire, fire!" Nobody's there. Nobody responded. Where are they? Did you get a call about that fire? No, we did not. Something don't add up.
The fire may have happened accidentally, but my brother dying was deliberate.
That guy did not have to die.
They just walked away from him.
Do you recall any other fires? Oh, man, a lot of fires. Sparks are shooting
I
out.
thought changes were going to be made. How did this happen? Again.
Have you gotten any answers to that?
If nothing's done about it, people are going to keep dying.
A person is getting roasted to death. This is real life stuff. There's a whole different world in here. Nobody deserved to die that way. Nobody. It's horrifying.
among the worst things that I've ever seen. I hope people don't turn away.
That's crazy, yo. It's crazy.
Indiana State Prison in Michigan City. It's the state's oldest and some say toughest prison. And what happens inside these walls often stays a secret. That is, unless someone's willing to talk about it.
Now, I'm glad to talk to you about this because I need to talk to somebody. They messed up here. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. Somebody gonna get hurt.
There are hundreds of inmates in this maximum security prison. Some are sentenced to life. For others, this prison is unknowingly a death sentence.
It was Saturday morning, and I woke up to my mother screaming. And it was a scream I never heard before, so I ran downstairs. She was just on the floor. She said, "They killed my baby."
Crystal Devine's brother, Josh, died inside the Indiana State Prison back in 2017.
I've cried every day since my brother passed.
Josh was just 2 years younger than Crystal. They were best friends.
We had a nickname for each other, Twin Face, because we looked so much alike.
Crystal and Josh grew up in this neighborhood on the east side of Indianapolis. She says it was a rough childhood, especially after their dad died. Josh was just 2.
He was small, skinny, scrawny, big teeth with a gap. So he got picked on sometimes, and I was very defensive. We might fight at home and wrestle and do all those things at home, but you didn't mess with my little brother.
Crystal remembers celebrating birthdays and holidays together, swimming with her brother at Ellenberger Park, and their first trip outside Indiana to go visit an aunt in Florida.
We just absolutely loved it. It was like one of the best experiences ever to be able to go to the beach every day.
The good times did not last long. Josh was hungry, so he started stealing food, then robbing people for money. By the time Josh was a teenager, he was constantly in and out of juvenile detention.
Josh wasn't always an innocent person. He was always, he was a good person that did dumb things.
In 2005, Josh pleaded guilty to possession of marijuana. The following year, he was arrested for robbery, and he went to prison. And when Josh got out on parole, he was arrested for another attempted robbery. That was 2012.
That was the last year that he was free.
A Marion County judge sent Josh back to prison, a 16-year sentence. That's how he ended up in Michigan City.
We never lost our bond to each other. We wrote each other a lot. We talked on the phone a lot.
What'd you guys talk about?
What life would be like when he got home. He wanted to start a family. Talked about how we would leave Indiana one day and go live somewhere where we could be at the beach all the time, anytime we wanted to.
Crystal says for her brother, it was more than just a dream.
There was freedom. The water makes you feel free.
But for Josh, there would be no freedom. And there would be no water when he needed it most.
How did your brother die?
By fire. He was trapped in a cell.
April 7th, 2017. Josh was assigned to B cell house up on the top floor. According to an incident report from Indiana State Police, all inmates were locked in their cells for the night when fire was first seen in Josh's cell around 9:35. One of the prison supervisors said flames were shooting out like a fire-breathing dragon.
It sounded like a blowtorch.
Lee Miller lived just one cell over from Josh, up on the 500 range, and he says he'll never forget that night.
I remember. I almost burned up in my cell. The fire came over into my cell. I'm laying on the floor. You got the flames coming around the corner, coming into the top of my cell. I was terrified.
Photos from the state fire marshal show what was left inside cell 540. That right there is the toilet. Next to it is an electrical outlet. And over there, that's Josh's bed.
Shouldn't have been out fucking robbing people and running.
A state police investigator wrote this cell was completely burnt. And by the time guards got Josh out of his cell,
bro, like,
so
how do
was
you
he.
make these
I actually
decisions?
seen
After the first time you go to jail?
Joshua laying on
The second
laying
time
on
you
the
go to
ring.
jail? Yo, I would never go back to jail, yo. I went there once, twice, and I'm like,
They pulled
I'm
him
not
out the
going
cell.
back. I'm gonna be honest with you
Josh
guys. I
had
don't
second
care.
and third degree
Judge me.
burns covering his
At
entire
least I didn't go
body.
back. How do you go back? It's crazy.
The very next day, Indiana State Prison sent a press release claiming the deadly fire inside Josh's cell was started by Josh. And some prison staff claimed the fire was the result of Josh cooking methamphetamine inside his cell.
I just know it wasn't. He wasn't doing any of those things they tried to say he was.
She's right. Testing of Josh's cell showed no signs of any drugs, and a state fire marshal investigation determined the fire was accidental, probably caused by an electrical event that started around his TV.
It's so crushing.
Crystal cannot stop thinking about the fire.
And I've had nightmares about it.
So they're saying that he didn't
Of
do
me
it.
trying to save my brother and I can't never get to him.
And nearly 9 years later,
lighting a
it
meth
also
pipe or
still
something.
impacts the inmates who witnessed the fire.
It's been with me forever. Nightmares, and you still hear the screaming.
Sound like a toddler screaming for his mother.
The way he's screaming in agony. I mean, a person is getting roasted to death.
And while they're still haunted by what happened, they say what really terrifies them is what did not happen.
Why are they not coming? Where are they? They chose not to come.
Dignity and freedom.
They chose. It was a choice.
Did you get a call about that fire?
No, we did not.
Something don't add up with these fires.
The fire may have happened accidentally, but my brother dying was deliberate.
Nobody deserved to die that way. Nobody.
And it's something the prison does not want to talk about. You're about to see why.
That's rough, guys. Imagine being burnt alive. Like, it hurts when I
Josh
hit my toe.
Devine burned to death inside his locked prison cell.
I don't understand that.
Hurts when I
But I
hit
don't
my
think I
big
ever
toe,
will.
man. Like,
Years later, his family and fellow inmates are still trying to process what happened.
None of this make any sense. I think that could have been prevented.
They messed up here.
You're about to learn what took place the night Josh died. The Indiana Department of Correction has surveillance video which shows exactly what happened. It also has internal investigation reports. But the department won't release any of it, claiming that would jeopardize prison security. So we got details another way. With the help of legal documents, eyewitness interviews, and thousands of pages of internal records, we assembled a detailed timeline that reveals the massive, systemic failures that led to a horrifying death. Within the walls of Indiana
Sorry,
State
bro.
Prison, each inmate is assigned
Can
to
you
a
subscribe,
specific housing unit.
please?
On the day of the fire, B Cell House was just about full. The Department of Correction denied our request to go inside the cell house for this investigation. But years ago, our cameras were allowed in. So using those prior visits, historical photographs, and internal prison documents, we created a 3D model of B Cell House so you can see inside. There are 230 cells divided between 5 floors. Each floor is referred to as a range, with 23 cells facing the north and 23 facing south. Along the outside edge of each range is a narrow walkway, and that is bordered by a reinforced metal fence. The only way to get up and down between the floors is by stairs at each end of the cell house, and on each floor, locked gates separate the cells and the stairs. Correctional officers must unlock those gates before they or inmates can move from one floor to the next. And each floor has its own separate keys. All of that's important, and we built this model to help you understand where inmates and staff were at the time of the fire. Josh Devine was here in cell 540, and right next door.
Yeah, he was my neighbor.
Lee Miller was in 538. Straight down, in 338, was Michael Gianfano.
He was 2 ranges above me, but I was right below him.
And a little further down from there.
My name's Dustin McGuire. My name is Oscar Hall.
Dustin was in cell 242, Oscar in 138, and Lee Travis Griffin was up in cell 430. He says all of the inmates on the north side of B cell house could see Josh clearly on the night of the fire.
I can look into his cell, he can look into my cell from the windows.
These windows that line the entire length of B cell house, inmates say they served as a mirror, clearly reflecting exactly what played out on the night Josh died. So here's what happened, according to our interviews with these inmates, as well as the official incident report from the state fire marshal, and thousands of pages of depositions showing what prison staff saw on the night of the fire. There were 3 correctional officers assigned to B cell house on April 7th. One was designated officer in charge, but all of them were new to the prison, averaging less than 6 months on the job. Records show at 9:05 p.m., the officer with the keys to the 500 range, the one marked there in red, she walked past Josh's cell while conducting the nightly inmate count. And according to that officer, Josh said he was doing fine. The count was completed at 9:06, and at that time, all inmates were locked in their cells for the night. At 9:33, all 3 officers were down on the first floor, 2 of them filling out payroll forms in an office, while the officer in charge stayed inside the officer's station on the other side of the range. A minute later, at 9:34, back in Josh's cell, investigation reports say surveillance video showed a large flash of light. Lee Miller could tell something was wrong next door.
I was smelling smoke. I said, "You all right over there?" He said, "You got some water?" I said, "No, everybody locked in. We got some water." He said, "I got a little fire going on."
Others started to notice too.
I smelled the smoke. I started seeing smoke. I said, "Did you get that out?" He said, "Man, I can't put it out." That's when I started yelling. Got a fire in 540.
Everybody started hollering, fire on 500.
Hey, fire, fire, fire.
People are yelling fire. This is what we do. If people need help, we holler. We make a lot of noise until the guards come. That's how we get their attention.
But despite all the screaming,
nobody's there.
Nobody responds.
Deb, I fell
9:36,
Deb, subscribe,
9:37,
please.
9:38, and still
Subscribe, Deb.
no correctional officers.
We've been yelling for seemed like eternity. Where you guys at?
Please.
And as each second, each minute passes, the fire is growing. By 9:40, 5 minutes after the fire started, surveillance cameras clearly showed both smoke and fire inside the cell, with Josh still locked inside.
I can see him, standing at his bars, and I can see the fires behind him, and then he's yelling, screaming.
And as Josh's screams got louder, inmates say so did theirs.
And I'm like, why ain't no officer coming? I'm sure they hear the whole cell house is yelling by this time.
There was absolutely no way that they couldn't have heard that. I don't care where you're at in that building.
But the 2 officers working on their timesheets down in the first floor office, they told investigators at that point they didn't hear anything. 9:41, 9:42, 9:43. That's when the officer in charge down in the guard station said he first noticed inmates yelling about the fire. At 9:44, he climbed the front stairs all the way to the top and then made his way down to cell 540, where Josh was pleading for help. The officer said the back of the cell was covered in flames from one end of the wall to the other, with Josh clinging to the bars at the front of the cell, screaming. Lee Miller says what the correctional officer did next is something he'll never forget.
He looked at me, looked at him, and walked and went the other way.
The officer in charge did not let Josh out of his burning cell because, well, he didn't have the right key. He had keys only for cells on the first floor. All the keys for up here on the 5th floor, those were down with one of the other guards down in the office. And all of the fire extinguishers, those were down on the 1st floor too. So the officer in charge had to use his radio to ask his fellow officers to bring him fire extinguishers and keys. But there was another problem. His radio wasn't working. Now, with precious moments ticking away, the officer headed back down the stairs to yell for help from the other guards. At 9:44, 10 minutes after the fire first started, the 2 guards working on their timesheets come out to the range after hearing the officer in charge screaming their names. One of the guards ran upstairs to help the officer in charge. She used her radio to call a signal 1071. That's the code for fire, alerting all prison staff in all cell houses all across the prison that there was an emergency. But the other guard, the one with the keys to Josh's cell, she was told to stay by the cell house door down on the 1st floor to let first responders into the cell house when they arrived. Why the keys to unlock Josh's cell were left downstairs with her? We don't know.
Once you get locked
About a
behind
minute
those
and a half later,
gates,
at 9:46,
throw your life
supervisors
away,
and first responders entered B cell house. One grabbed the keys, another got fire extinguishers from the guard station, and they all ran up to 500 to try to unlock Josh's cell. But by then, 12 minutes after the fire started, it was too late.
When they finally got up there, the man's cell was fully engulfed to the point that it looked like a butane torch.
It looked like the air itself in his cell was on fire. It's something that you would see in a movie, and it was real life.
9:47, 13 minutes after the fire started.
I got on the floor, on my belly.
As Lee Miller tried to hide from the flames that were now shooting into his cell next door.
I was terrified. I just thought I was going to burn up.
The correct keys finally made it up to the top floor. Supervisors arrived at Josh's cell with the keys and fire extinguishers. The cell door was now unlocked, but it would not open enough for Josh to get out. One of the supervisors described Josh's last moments. When he reached out and grabbed the door and tried to push, like I literally watched the skin on his hands peel back because it got so hot. And then he fell to his knees and he died. Stopped talking. There was fire coming out of his mouth. 9:49, 15 minutes after the first signs of trouble, prison staff are trying to put out the fire in Josh's cell. According to a lieutenant, it took them 5 more minutes and several more fire extinguishers before the flames disappeared.
There was no more fire, and he stopped yelling. So I said, oh. And once I saw that the fire had just went black, there was no more fire, and it's just black everywhere.
My bad.
And he stopped yelling, I knew he was dead by then.
Josh was dead. And 20 minutes after the fire started, the emergency was still far from over.
Crazy, yo.
9:56. Inside Indiana State Prison, it's been more than 20 minutes since fire broke out in cell 540. Josh Devine is no longer screaming, and B cell house is filled with choking smoke, with more than 200 inmates still locked in their cells.
The building was so full of smoke that you couldn't see.
You couldn't see nothing.
Couldn't see anything.
It was like black.
I'm coughing up blood. I'm coughing up soot.
I was scared for my own life.
I was thinking I was going to die because I couldn't get out.
Did you get a call about that fire?
No, we did not.
Jeff Bruder is fire marshal at the Michigan City Fire Department. Station number 1 sits about a half mile, just 2 minutes from the prison.
They make the decision whether they need to call us or not, and if it's a fire that they can handle, they will definitely handle it. If not, then that's when we're called in.
But there was no 911 call from the prison that night. Why did the Indiana State Prison not call for outside help when a prisoner was burning to death inside his cell, when the entire cell house was filled with dangerous smoke? Well, because Indiana State Prison has its own fire station right on site. It sits about 30 steps from B Cell House, where inmates were screaming for help. And the prison has its own on-site firefighters, inmates who have the latest training and equipment to fight fires. In fact, one of those firefighters was in B Cell House, cell 126, the whole time Josh's cell was on fire.
But they didn't open his door.
He was not released from his cell?
No, he didn't get out, let out until everybody else did.
Why?
I don't know why. That man knew what to do. And had he been out, I think at the initial, hey, there's a fire up here, Josh would still be alive today.
More inmate firefighters were scattered across other cell houses, all locked in their cells, until 9:45, 10 minutes after the fire started. That's when a prison supervisor ordered their cells to be opened so they could fight the fire. But there were more delays. After firefighters got out of their cells, it took another 3 to 5 minutes for correctional officers to let them leave their cell houses. And then they had to wait several more minutes outside the locked firehouse. All their firefighting gear sat inside, useless, until a supervisor showed up with a key.
I was pissed off. I was mad, because I know if you let us do our job, we'd do our job.
Don Mahone is an inmate, and he was assistant fire chief on the night of the fire. As he entered B Cell House, he remembers hitting a thick wall of smoke on the 3rd floor, where inmates were pleading for help.
They were screaming, telling me they can't breathe, help, help, help. So I go back downstairs and I tell them, I say, hey, man, we got to get these guys out of the cell.
Don then made his way up to the 500 range. He said communication between the staff and the firefighters was so bad, he had no clue what to expect when he finally made it to Josh's cell, more than 20 minutes after the fire started.
I had no idea nobody was in that cell. I just couldn't fathom that somebody was in there. And if there's somebody in the cell, I always tell them, the first thing to do is get him out of that cell. Don't worry about no fire extinguisher. Get him out that cell. Open that door.
That did not happen, which led not only to Josh's death, but also to a small riot. When staff finally started evacuating the cell house, 25 minutes after inmates first started yelling for help, tempers were short and tensions were high. Inmates were angry.
Yo, they was real angry, because they felt that he was allowed to get burned up in the cell.
The anger was about the help didn't come. They had let that man die in that room.
It was way too long. It took way too long.
The response was as if someone had stubbed their toe, as opposed to a man being on fire.
Josh was still alive. Those few moments, if he had brought those keys with him, that man, I wouldn't be here, sir. I wouldn't be talking to you. I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
They just walked away from him. They could have saved him then. They just walked away. My brother could be free today.
Nobody cares about you when you're in jail, bro. It's like the
If he
shelter
had just
system.
made the choice to save his life.
The officers' choices on the night of the fire, those aren't the only choices that might have cost Josh his life. Buried deep inside documents and depositions, we discovered other disturbing decisions at the prison have been going on for years.
People dying from human error.
This ain't the first time.
Just ahead, life-threatening problems at the prison that can be traced back more than a century.
I seen it with my own eyes. I was like, wow.
And the chilling consequences for other inmates that continue even after Josh's death. The fire that killed Josh Devine inside his locked cell, it left inmates shaken.
I mean, it's horrible.
I think about it a lot.
Despite the shock of such a gruesome death, the people who know this prison best say the deadly fire in cell 540 should not have come as a surprise. In fact, the prison's history and its own records suggest such a fire was even predictable, with dangerous conditions,
Listen.
building for a very long time.
They're saying it's from
B
the
Cell
TV.
House was built more than 100 years ago, and Indiana State Prison is even older than that. The facility opened in 1860, and it wasn't long
Harry?
before the prison started having trouble with fire. Inside the Indiana State Archives, on these shelves full of history, we found some of the prison's earliest records. And at the state library, we found all these old annual reports sent directly from the warden to the governor. They show in 1872, a fire resulted in the total destruction of one of the prison's two-story brick buildings. 2 years later, fire broke out in a cell house, destroying the roof and resulting in injuries. And in 1904, the warden described a disastrous fire that burned down the prison's 3 largest factory buildings. These old reports describe fires all across the facility. Cell houses, offices, factories, warehouses, the prisoner's bathhouse, all places where inmates lived and worked.
I've been here for 14 and a half years.
These inmates cannot talk about what happened back in the early 1900s.
I've been here since 2011.
But they can talk about what they've seen over the past few decades.
I've been at the Indiana State Prison since 1986.
And they confirm even today there is no shortage of fires inside this prison.
Oh, man, I've been through a lot of fires.
Prison incident reports show many of the fires happen when an inmate accidentally leaves a hot pot plugged in his cell, or when inmates intentionally set fires as a form of protest. They do that by tampering with an outlet in their cell to cause sparks, igniting something flammable which is then thrown out onto the range.
So people find ways to make fire.
It means over the years, a lot of prison outlets have been damaged.
You know, the sockets like that, sometimes they just catch on fire on their own, you know what I mean? I was down the range talking to a guy, and all of a sudden the flames started jumping out of his socket. I was like, what the? And I seen it with my own eyes. I was like, wow.
Other inmates told me it's happened in their cells.
I've seen where sparks are shooting out the outlet.
And it was hissing and shooting fire out.
As soon as you plug it in, sparks shoot out the side of the point of contact.
That was back in 2017, or that's now?
That is back in 17 and still today.
This official incident report shows what he's talking about. It says officers saw large flames accompanied by smoke coming from the electrical socket in a prisoner's cell in B Cell House. That happened in cell 440, the cell directly below Josh's, and it happened just months before Josh died in another electrical fire. I also reviewed statements from guards and supervisors who testified they'd seen numerous electrical fires and sparking outlets in inmate cells. And an inmate firefighter said outlet fires are a widespread problem. But despite the history of fires, we discovered the prison repeatedly cut corners and violated its own policy for fire. That policy says Indiana State Prison has a plan for evacuating cell houses during a fire emergency. But an officer testified getting to the prison's fire emergency plan was quite difficult because it was kept in the warden's office, where guards can only access it if you come in on your day off to read it. And the officer in charge of B Cell House on the night of Josh's death testified he was never trained on how to respond to an emergency or how to evacuate inmates. The policy also requires all staff to participate in regularly scheduled fire drills and to attend on-site training in fire safety. But all 3 guards on duty in B Cell House the night Josh died said they couldn't remember participating in a single fire drill before the deadly fire, even though prison policy requires fire drills at least 4 times each year, in every cell house and on every shift. And these fire drill reports also raise questions. They claim full-scale fire drills did occur on every shift in the months leading up to the deadly fire, with hundreds of prisoners evacuated from each cell house so inmates and staff could practice what to do in a real emergency. This report shows a nighttime drill with a full evacuation in B Cell House less than 3 weeks before the fire. But despite what's recorded in these reports, the officers assigned to B Cell House testified they never saw any fire drill evacuations on the night shift. And this inmate firefighter told us the same thing.
At nighttime, no. They don't let nobody out at nighttime.
So there were fire drills, but no one was released from their cell?
I don't know why. You know, I don't want to speculate, but they didn't do it.
How much good is a fire drill if you're not letting people out of their cells?
That's a firefighter. You know, I'm gonna say it ain't good, but you know, I ain't in charge. You know, they feel that it's sufficient. I didn't believe it was, but they did.
Instead of actual fire drills, inmate firefighters said guards were given quarterly exams to see if they knew what to do during a fire. The guards in B Cell House did not know what to do, according to a firefighter who tested them shortly before the fire in cell 540. The firefighter reported they took it as a joke. They failed. Every one of them failed. As a matter of fact, one of the officers made the statement that if there was a fire, she was going to run out the front door. The lack of knowledge and preparation was exposed when fire broke out in Josh's cell. The prison's inmate fire chief reported all of the officers in B Cell House were panicking because they weren't sure on what they had to do.
None of them knew what they was doing. I think it goes back to the training or the lack thereof.
Didn't seem like the staff was prepared.
Oh, they wasn't. They wasn't ready for that.
And even a few weeks after the fire, when the officer in charge of B Cell House took another fire drill exam, he failed again. We got a copy of the exam. It shows a score of poor and says the officer doesn't know anything. And while staff did not get proper training, we discovered the prison did not get proper inspections. Indiana law requires the state fire marshal's office to inspect state prisons every year. But records show at the time of this fire, B Cell House had not been inspected by the state fire marshal since 2010, a full 7 years. And the local fire marshal in Michigan City? Do you conduct fire safety inspections over at the Indiana State Prison?
No.
Why?
State property. I have no jurisdiction there.
He says he's not really allowed in the prison. Well, unless they invite him, which they don't.
No.
So for years, the prison was inspecting itself with questionable results. Just take a look at these fire inspection reports filed by supervisors in the years leading up to the deadly fire. They show B Cell House getting high marks for fire safety, a rating of 4 or 5 on every inspection. That means prison staff said the facility met or exceeded standards for its safety equipment, such as fire extinguishers, fire alarms, and its fire sprinkler system. Just one problem.
There's no fire sprinklers in the cell houses.
There are no sprinkler systems in ISP.
And yet, week after week, month after month, year after year, supervisors inspected, rated, and signed off on a cell house sprinkler system that doesn't even exist.
They don't make any sense.
I feel like they don't care.
Confused about how the prison deals with fires and angry about the lack of accountability,
It could have been prevented.
Josh's family decided to fight back with a lawsuit in federal court, and it revealed some surprising new details.
I couldn't believe it.
That's horrifying.
But with new discoveries, would the prison make changes in time to prevent another tragedy?
Like a laptop or something, eh?
See, and I keep seeing him laying on that range. I just keep seeing him laying on that range. That guy did not have to die.
If that don't work, I'm opening
After
my own
Josh Devine
landscaping
burned
business.
to death in his prison cell,
should
it
work.
took the Indiana State Prison
start buying
less
more
than a
stuff.
month to complete an internal investigation. Department of Correction
just got back
investigators
my new
wrote
phone.
they
I
cannot
just got
find
back
any
that iPad.
violations of policy
Thank
or
you, guys.
procedure or misconduct by any staff before or during the fire emergency. The investigation was sent to the warden and closed. Josh's family still needed answers. How did the prison explain things to you and your family?
They just confirmed that he passed away and wouldn't answer any other questions. So honestly, I would really like to see people be held accountable for the actions they don't take.
So in 2018, the family filed a federal lawsuit against the warden, several prison supervisors, and the correctional officers assigned to B Cell House. The lawsuit claimed the state workers failed to protect Josh, alleging his wrongful death was the result of negligence and a violation of his rights.
There's absolutely no reason at all that he should have suffered the way he did.
He was not sentenced to death. There's no way that he was supposed to die in prison.
Locke Bowman is one of the attorneys hired to represent Josh.
Literally, he died because staff didn't do their job, hadn't been trained to do their job, and a preventable tragedy happened.
The lawsuit meant all the officers and supervisors who responded to the fire were deposed, required to answer questions under oath. Nearly every one of them praised the response, saying they did everything they could, gave their best, and wouldn't do anything different. Sentiments shared by the warden.
Good morning, men. I'm Ron Neal, superintendent here at the Indiana State Prison.
We obtained this video through an open records request. It shows the warden speaking directly to inmates shortly after Josh died.
Thankfully, B Cell House was evacuated quickly.
Insisting there was no negligence, the state attorney general's office vigorously defended the prison and its staff. The state filed legal briefs claiming all the defendants responded appropriately and acted reasonably under the chaotic and high-pressure circumstances. The AG's office argued supervisors took appropriate steps to minimize fire risks, and it said correctional staff took courageous action, performed heroically, and even put their own lives at risk while responding to the fire. Despite those claims, testimony from some of the prison's own staff painted a much different picture of what happened during the fire. One of the responding officers testified that panicked staff members in B Cell House did not do what they should have done in response to the fire. The officer in charge said he was confused and concerned that his fellow officers did not respond to inmates yelling for help, testifying that those two officers just didn't pay attention to what was going on. And one of those officers admitted, "I felt really horrible because I felt like I didn't do enough." Also, powerful words from the fire chief of the inmate fire brigade. The prison would not let us see the report he wrote immediately after Josh's fire, but it's directly quoted in his deposition. The fire chief wrote, "That poor man sat in his cell screaming for help. The staff's inability to take fire seriously by not getting us out in a timely manner is partially responsible for that man's death." Keep in mind, records show after the fire started in cell 540, it took 8 minutes for a guard to go investigate the problem and 12 minutes to get the right key up to the 5th floor to unlock Josh's cell. What impact would a delay like that have?
Massive. There's subject in there. You're going to want to get that door open as fast as you can to make sure you could at least give them a chance.
Seconds count. You're a jailer. The first piece of equipment that matters for you is the keys. Not having the keys is a serious failure of responsibility.
So, when the Attorney General's office asked a federal judge to dismiss the case without a trial, the judge issued a very strong opinion, calling some of the Attorney General's arguments unconvincing and even absurd. Chief Judge John DiGiulio wrote, "A reasonable jury could find that the correctional officers were deliberately indifferent, based on how much time it took them to respond while inmates were screaming to get their attention." As far as the warden and prison supervisors, the judge said each one of them was aware of an abundant number of safety hazards, including the widespread persistent issues with fires and electrical outlets sparking. The judge took issue with dangerous policies at Indiana State Prison and dangerous lapses in enforcing policy, specifically pointing out some of the problems we've told you about: broken radios, no sprinklers, and no fire drills on the night shift. The judge ruled he would not dismiss the case against the warden and most of the other defendants. The court set a trial date for July 2023, a legal victory for Josh's family.
Those are Josh's ashes.
For the first time, Crystal thought perhaps there might be justice for her brother's death. And even more importantly,
I thought changes were going to be made. I was really hopeful that after what my brother had to experience, that nobody else would have to experience it.
But before Josh's family would get their day in court, it happened again.
That's hell, bro. That place is on like some demon land or something.
January 14th, 2023, nearly 6 years since Josh Devine died in his prison cell, and Indiana State Prison still defending itself against claims it failed to prevent a deadly fire inside B cell house. But on this day, the focus is about to shift to A cell house. That's where Michael Smith was assigned to cell 252. That's him walking out of his cell. The Indiana Department of Correction repeatedly denied our request to see this video. We got it instead from Indiana State Police, who were called in to investigate what's about to happen next. And at this point, we want to warn you, it's very difficult to watch. Michael walks back into his cell at 10 a.m. and closes the cell door behind him. We don't know exactly what happened over the next hour or so, because like many inmates, Michael hung a sheet at the front of his cell for privacy. But right around 10:55, behind that sheet, we begin to see an orange glow. And about 30 seconds later, we can more clearly see both fire and smoke inside the cell. Keep in mind, as the fire quickly grows, Michael Smith is locked inside that cell. Within 90 seconds, other inmates come to their cell doors to see what's going on.
Once again, start smelling a little smoke.
One of those inmates was Lee Travis Griffin, who had been transferred to A cell house.
After Joshua Devine, I'm always on edge when it comes to fire.
Lee Travis was in cell 358, just about 30 feet away from that fire, and he could hear Michael yelling for help, at least for a moment.
You're not even
After
fighting
he
other
screamed for
inmates.
help
You're like
and that there's a fire,
fires.
he ain't saying anything else. Everybody's around him loud enough that you ain't hearing him say anything. Everybody else is pretty much screaming, get him out of there.
2.5 minutes into the fire, Michael Smith tears down the sheet and he tries to shield himself from the fire. And at this point, we're gonna pause. And when we restart the video, we're gonna place a box over part of the cell because what happens next is simply too horrible to show. Just know behind that box, Michael is inside that cell down on the floor fighting for his life as he waits for prison guards to come help him. The first correctional officers arrive roughly 3.5 minutes after the first signs of fire. By then, the cell is an inferno. The two guards bring one fire extinguisher, and it's the wrong kind to fight this type of fire, offering only a weak stream of water. After a few moments, they retreat and run back down the range as the blaze gets even bigger. At 10:59, 4 minutes into this emergency, it appears the locks on some cells are remotely disengaged. A few inmates are able to run away, others still trapped, including Michael. By the time guards return with another fire extinguisher, more than 4.5 minutes after the fire started, Michael has already been consumed by the flames. About a minute later, an officer is able to pull open the door to cell 252, but the fire is still too hot to get Michael out. A second chemical fire extinguisher, still not enough to fully put out the flames. About 7.5 minutes after the fire started, inmate firefighters arrive to keep battling the fire and to remove Michael's body from his cell.
It's just a box. These are my dad's ashes, and this is how I received him. Just like this. He's in a bag in a black plastic box.
Misty Valencia is Michael Smith's daughter. She says there was no funeral for her father.
When a death like this happens, you don't get that. You don't get that final just... I'm sorry. To show you that it's real.
Did the prison explain what happened?
Not really. It was just a very straightforward, there was a fire in his cell and he didn't get out in time. How does that happen?
Have you gotten any answers to that question?
Yo, prison, some prison, you sleep on the floor.
The Michigan City Fire Marshal also wanted to know what happened, especially after city firefighters went to assist the prison but were turned away. Their dispatch report says Engine 1 crew tried to make entry into the prison. However, ISP staff would not allow any personnel behind the walls.
It seems like it shouldn't happen like that.
The city fire marshal was suspicious.
And I immediately called for the state fire marshal because I felt I didn't want another 2017. I felt the fire needed to be investigated.
Within 2 hours, Jeff Bruder was inside the cell house, right alongside an investigator from the state fire marshal's office. Together, they looked for clues and documented what they saw in cell 252. What was left inside that cell?
Rubble, charred walls, charred ceiling, no paint. The paint was just burned off the concrete walls. Everything's charred.
The conclusion from investigators, it was an electrical and accidental fire that started underneath the center of the bed. In that area, investigators found lots of evidence, burned up TVs, cell phones, and computers. Also among the rubble, melted wires and what appeared to be a homemade soldering device. Prison staff told investigators other inmates brought Michael their broken electronics because they considered him a handyman. And guards also claimed Michael had gotten in trouble in the past for altering a prison outlet, light fixture, and fan. So was this fire triggered by something Michael did, or something he brought into his cell? Or was it caused by a faulty or damaged outlet, the kind other inmates had described seeing throughout the prison?
The flames started jumping out his socket. Sparks is shooting out.
Sparks shoot out the side.
Investigators did find this electrical cord from a computer plugged into the outlet in Michael's burned up cell, but determined it's not a conclusive piece of evidence. Were you able to determine what caused that fire?
No, there's things that we couldn't rule out as far as electrical.
Could have been an electrical fire.
Could have been.
Does the evidence point towards something else that's more likely than that?
No, I don't believe so.
While it's not clear exactly what started this fire, it's pretty easy to see the response was quicker than what happened 6 years earlier in the fire that killed Josh Devine. This time, guards arrived faster. They brought fire extinguishers faster. They radioed for help faster. And inmate firefighters were activated, released, and able to respond faster. And while all of that is significant, when you watch this video,
it's horrifying. It is among the worst things that I've ever seen.
This civil rights attorney says you can still see disturbing similarities between the two deadly fires.
Corrections staff are at the critical moment not physically present. They're not physically there where they need to be. It happens in the Josh Devine fire. It happens again in the Michael Smith fire.
Was the response here not faster?
Fundamentally, the response to this fire was not fast enough. He should have been helped, and he wasn't.
And there are other similarities. Inmates say, again, guards did not respond immediately to prisoners' initial screams for help, which wasted valuable time.
You still have no way of getting someone's attention during an emergency. It was quicker than 2017, but just as poor. You still came at a point that the fire couldn't be contained to save this man's life.
And like before, there's also the question of training. While correctional officers remembered to bring a fire extinguisher when they first responded to the cell, they came with a simple water canister, not one of the prison's many chemical fire extinguishers, which are far more effective on a wide variety of fires. It's an important detail included in these quarterly fire drill exams that correctional officers are supposed to be quizzed on several times each year. Also, despite a raging, deadly cell fire 6 years earlier, just like this one, Indiana State Prison still had no fire sprinklers in its cell houses to help save Michael Smith. And those mandatory state fire marshal inspections, the ones that are required every year, we found once again they did not happen. The state fire marshal's office inspected all Indiana State Prison cell houses a few months after Josh Devine died in 2017. But records show during the next 5.5 years, they never came back. And even more startling, we discovered the state fire marshal failed to inspect the cell houses even after Michael Smith burned to death. We learned that when we asked to see the fire marshal's recent inspection reports in the summer of 2024. They told us they didn't have any. No fire inspections completed for those years. Within weeks of our request, the state fire marshal resumed its annual inspections that are required by state law. The fire marshal's office told us it conducted only 2 of those inspections during the previous 14 years due to an oversight. That's especially troubling based on what the local fire marshal noticed as he walked through a cell house on the day Michael Smith died.
What did you see? Homemade extension cords, some type of charger, homemade plugs.
Are those fire safety concerns?
Definitely. A spark can start a fire within minutes, seconds.
He was in a place that people are paid to keep him safe, and he wasn't safe.
Misty is well aware her dad and other inmates here were convicted of serious felonies. She says that's no reason to look away from what's happening inside.
These people have families that love them and care about them. I don't agree with the crimes that are committed. But again, he was not sentenced to death, and he certainly wasn't sentenced to be burned.
I couldn't believe it when I heard that it happened again. It's just so heartbreaking, because these are people that are loved. No matter what anybody else thinks, these are people that are loved, and somebody is waiting for them.
The wait for Crystal and for Misty, it's now a wait for change.
We're not going away.
If nothing's done about it, people are going to keep dying.
Next, how Josh's horrible death prompted a historic ending and a new beginning.
How did this happen? Again.
Michael Smith and Josh Devine burned alive, 6 years apart at Indiana State Prison. Their families say both deaths were preventable.
Something happened that shouldn't have happened.
6 years apart.
It shouldn't have happened in the first place.
That's a
But
demonic
definitely not
ground,
again.
bro.
And their attorney says the prison was slow to take action, even after the first fatal fire.
It opens the prison to the possibility that history is going to repeat itself and there'll be another tragedy.
So, after 2 inmates burned to death in their prison cells, what changes did Indiana State Prison make to prevent it from happening again? Did the prison make any changes to improve fire safety? We've been asking the Indiana Department of Correction those questions for more than a year. A department spokeswoman told me, due to pending litigation, we are not able to do an interview or comment on specifics. The agency did send me what it calls the most current fire prevention practices at the Indiana State Prison. It was last updated more than a decade ago, back in 2013.
Guys, this is an unfortunate tragedy, and it's something that I never want to see repeated here at the state prison.
That is Warden Ron Neal, who runs Indiana State Prison. While the Department of Correction denied our request to interview him, we do have this video showing the warden addressing inmates right after Josh's death. And at that time, he promised changes.
Guys, moving forward, we're looking at several things.
He said the prison would buy a new high-tech fire extinguisher, along with a powerful fan to clear out smoke.
You guys were there, you saw how quickly the smoke built in this situation, so being able to evacuate it is certainly necessary moving forward.
He also announced what's called a prison-wide shakedown, requiring inmates to get rid of excess property, including banned electronics, to reduce the risk of fire in their cells.
Guys, this is not a punitive thing, but this is for your safety. So moving forward, we are going to be going from cell house to cell house or housing unit to housing unit and doing a purge.
The warden said that back in 2017, and a purge did happen. But nearly 6 years later, when Michael Smith's cell burned, it was filled with electronics, raising questions about how seriously the prison really is monitoring inmate cells. And while the prison did get 2 foam compression fire extinguishers, the kind the warden promised back in 2017.
This is the newest thing on the market and much more efficient than spraying water on a fire.
It was still just water in that extinguisher that guards showed up with when Michael's cell caught fire in 2023. The new, more powerful fire extinguisher, that didn't arrive on scene until Michael was already dead.
This failure of training was responsible in significant part for Joshua Devine's death. And remarkably, astonishingly, there's no modification of training in the aftermath of Joshua Devine's fire. You see the same problems recurring again and leading to Michael Smith's death.
I know that I can't rely on these people to save me.
Since the deaths, inmates say they haven't seen many changes either.
No, it's the same. Business as usual.
They tell me the only improvements they have noticed, well, in each cell house, fire extinguishers are now located on every floor, not just down in the officer's station. The prison now gives inmates metal boxes to store their property, not cardboard boxes, which are more flammable. And inmate firefighters have all been moved into the same housing unit to improve their response time. It's a change that was long overdue. How long? Wow. Well, take a look at the prison's inspection report from the state fire marshal all the way back in 1918. He wrote, inmate firefighters are housed in different cell houses some distance from the fire station. And he said it's urgently suggested they be housed together, preferably housed at the fire station, to save valuable time in case of a fire at night. That urgent recommendation to house all inmate firefighters together was finally implemented 99 years after the fire marshal wrote this report. It happened right after Josh Devine burned in his cell while waiting for help. One of the supervisors who responded testified, I hate to say it, but something terrible had to happen in order for us to get it right. Whether the prison has gotten things right is still up for debate, because even today, it's missing something critical.
The Indiana Fire Code says that prisons and jails in Indiana shall have sprinkler systems. Why doesn't the Indiana State Prison have a sprinkler system?
I can't comment on that. Steve Jones is the state fire marshal. He said for legal reasons, he would not answer any questions about the deadly prison fires.
I'll ask it in a more general way. In Indiana right now, what are the safety requirements when it comes to fire suppression systems in jails and prisons?
It would depend on when the building was built. So let's talk about that. This is when A cell house was built. It's the cell house where Michael died. B cell house where Josh burned to death, that was built even earlier.
Not a lot of fire codes in 1906.
Exactly.
What code applies to a building that might be well over 100 years old? Where would we go to find that information?
Many times it doesn't exist anymore. Those buildings back in those days
They never met the requirements. And so they stay that way.
The reality is there were no state fire codes at the time buildings like this were built. State archives show it was the 1920s when Indiana passed its first statewide building code. And even though sprinklers were widely available back then, the state's early building codes did not require them in prisons. That didn't happen until decades later.
A new prisoner jail being built today would have to have a fire suppression system?
Yes. Any building that people can't self-evacuate, like a hospital, nursing home, jail, those types of buildings in the most current code require sprinkler systems.
But old prisons like this are exempt from the updated codes. No fire sprinklers required. The state fire marshal said he supported a law Indiana passed 20 years ago, requiring all Indiana nursing homes, no matter how old, to be retrofitted with sprinkler systems. Lawmakers did that to protect the elderly from deadly fires. But they did not extend that same protection to thousands of inmates locked in prison cells.
The prison system is our prison system, and the way it operates is a reflection of our values as a society.
I think there should be sprinklers in any building that holds that many people.
Why wouldn't you have that? It's such a basic thing to have. And when you have so many people, there's so many lives at risk.
After Josh Devine died in 2017, incident reports show at least 200 more fires inside the prison, including some involving electrical outlets. And we're not talking about just little fires. These reports show some fires with flames and smoke pouring out of cells, fires resulting in serious injuries and in death. It's something that keeps inmates awake at night.
You have a spark here, a spark there. It don't take much to ignite a fire, and now I'm in the same situation that Joshua Devine was in.
That man died in his room, just like I think I could die in my room. So I think about it a lot.
I shouldn't have to live in a place where I'm scared to go to sleep because I might not wake up because my cell might catch on fire. That's preventable.
But would a jury agree with that? Josh's family was ready to take their case to trial. It was scheduled for this federal courtroom in the summer of 2023. Jurors would get to hear all about the delays with the keys and the fire extinguishers and the firefighters. They would get to hear testimony about the lack of training, about missed fire drills, and about the broken radios. And they might get to hear that another inmate had just died the same horrible death. Turns out, a jury never heard a word about any of it. 3 months before the trial was scheduled to begin in federal court, the Attorney General's office offered a settlement.
Yeah, they took the
To
settlement?
avoid going to trial, the state agreed to pay Josh's family nearly $4 million.
That is a significant settlement.
One of the largest inmate death settlements the state has ever paid.
Man. Even after the settlement, money doesn't make things go away. I feel like they took my life away from me. Not only my brothers, but they took my life too.
So why didn't you go to trial, bro?
Because my brother should be alive. And he would be free. He'd be with me. And I don't get that anymore.
The Devine family reluctantly finalized their settlement with the Department of Correction in July of 2023, 4 days before what would have been Josh's scheduled release date. As part of that agreement, the department and all the defendants denied and continue to deny any fault, wrongdoing, or liability for Josh's death.
And that remains disappointing. But having said that, the state didn't pay nearly $4 million to Josh Devine's family because they truly believed that they did nothing wrong.
Do you worry that there will be another Joshua Devine and another Michael Smith?
I do. I feel like it could be any day.
I do. I think about it often. I think about another family getting that call. And it's heartbreaking.
It's why Michael Smith's family has filed a separate federal lawsuit to hold the state accountable and to highlight what Misty calls ongoing dangers inside this old prison.
You can't brush it under the rug. We're not going away. Changes need to be made.
There is another tragedy on the horizon. There's an ability to take steps to prevent it, but if they're not taken, I'm very concerned that history again will repeat itself.
If nothing's done about it, people are going to keep dying.
Crystal is still speaking out, even though she now lives more than 11 hours from the prison where Josh died. After the settlement, she decided to move south, partly to get further away from what still seems like a horrible dream, and partly to keep a promise to her little brother.
I decided that I was going to go live the life that me and Josh talked about, where the sun shines more, where we can go to the beach any day we want to. When I go, I say, brother, we're here. I write his name in the sand. I feel like I have to live life because he didn't get to.
Bro. That jail is a hell.
And he deserved to be home right now. So I try to live for him.
Phone is on like 18%. I gotta charge it. Yo, I love you guys so much. I'm gonna charge my phone and hopefully you guys come back. No.
What if I told you you'll experience longer gameplay, more features hits, and higher payouts if you play at any...
Oh my god, baby, it's amazing this. I'm building a new one. It's crazy, guys. Thank you for being here, yo. I'm gonna go search some more stuff to watch, charge my phone. I'll be back. Thank you guys. I love you guys. I'll be back.